In 1879, a 16-year-old boy left his father's farm and made his way to Detroit at a time when the world still moved by horse, carriage, and steam locomotive. Automobiles were rare curiosities, mostly built for sport and owned by the wealthy. No one could have imagined that this quiet farm boy would one day put the world on wheels. That boy was Henry Ford, and within a few decades his name would become synonymous with the modern automobile. Henry was born on July 30, 1863, on a modest farm in what is now Dearborn. His father, William Ford, was a hard-working farmer who believed deeply in discipline, routine, and the value of land. As the eldest of 6 children, Henry was expected to inherit the farm and continue the family tradition. Life on the farm followed the rhythm of the seasons: planting, tending, harvesting, repeated year after year. It demanded strength, patience, and long hours of physical labor. Henry fulfilled his duties, but inside he felt restless. The repetitive grind of farming did not inspire him. He later admitted that it was not the farm he loved, but his mother, Mary, whose warmth and encouragement gave meaning to his childhood. Unlike many boys of his time, Henry showed little enthusiasm for formal schooling. He never advanced beyond the 8th grade, yet his lack of academic credentials masked a powerful and disciplined curiosity. He preferred learning by doing. At 12, when his father gave him a pocket watch, Henry did not simply admire it, he dismantled it. He studied the springs, gears, and tiny screws with intense focus, then reassembled it flawlessly. Soon neighbors were bringing him their broken watches. The farm boy became known locally as the one who could fix anything with moving parts. His fascination deepened when, at 13, he encountered a steam engine during a trip outside the farm. The sight and sound of the machine, its hissing valves, its mechanical rhythm, captured him completely. It represented power harnessed by human ingenuity. From that moment, machinery became his obsession. By 15, he had built a small steam engine of his own. While other boys spent their free time in play, Henry studied mechanics late into the night, imagining a future where machines would ease human labor. Then tragedy reshaped his life. In 1876, his mother died suddenly. Her loss left a silence that lingered in every corner of the farm. Henry felt untethered. The place that had once felt secure now felt confining. His father hoped responsibility would anchor him, but Henry's resolve hardened. At 16, determined to shape his own path, he left home for Detroit. Detroit in the late 19th century was transforming into an industrial hub. Factories were rising, powered by steam and ambition. For Henry, the city represented possibility. He found work at the Michigan Car Company Works, but his first job lasted only 6 days. Failure came quickly, but it did not discourage him. He secured an apprenticeship at the James Flower and Brothers machine shop, earning just enough to survive. To supplement his income, he repaired watches at night, often working 6 days a week with little rest. The workload was exhausting, yet Henry treated every machine he touched as a teacher. He absorbed knowledge about metal, motion, tolerances, and efficiency. In 1882, he briefly returned to Michigan, still unwilling to accept farming as his destiny. His father had purchased a portable steam engine, and Henry mastered it quickly, becoming so proficient that neighbors paid him to operate theirs. Word of his skill spread, eventually reaching the Westinghouse Engine Company. The company hired him to service steam engines across southern Michigan. This role exposed him to new environments, new clients, and new mechanical challenges, strengthening both his technical confidence and his independence. In 1885, Henry met Clara Jane Bryant. She recognized his ambition and shared his belief in building a life beyond the farm. They married in 1888. Henry's father gifted them 40 acres of land, perhaps hoping marriage would settle him into agriculture. Instead, Henry continued experimenting with engines. By 1891, he and Clara moved back to Detroit, where Henry accepted a position as a night engineer at the Edison Illuminating Company. The job required him to maintain large steam-powered generators supplying electricity to the city. The steady income and flexible hours gave him what he needed most time to experiment. Around this period, Henry learned of a revolutionary engine design developed by Nicholas Otto. Unlike steam engines, Otto's internal combustion engine burned fuel inside a cylinder, eliminating the need for heavy boilers and lengthy startup times. Henry saw in it the key to a lightweight, self-propelled vehicle. He studied relentlessly, experimenting in a small workshop behind his home. In 1893, Clara gave birth to their only child, Edsel Bryant Ford. That same year, Henry was promoted to chief engineer at Edison Illuminating, increasing his salary and stability. Yet his mind remained fixed on a bold vision, a horseless carriage that ordinary people could own. Late at night, in June 1896, he completed his first vehicle, the Quadricycle. Built on 4 bicycle wheels and powered by a simple gasoline engine. It was crude and imperfect, lacking reverse gear and prone to overheating. But it moved under its own power. The experiment proved his idea was not fantasy. He sold it for $200 and reinvested every dollar into further development. In 1899, with backing from investors, he co-founded the Detroit Automobile Company. The venture struggled. Production delays, high costs, and disagreements over design plagued the business. Henry prioritized innovation and quality, while investors demanded immediate profits. The company failed, and he was dismissed. Instead of retreating, he recalibrated. He turned to racing, understanding that speed and competition would attract attention. In a dramatic race, his vehicle defeated one built by Alexander Winton, earning national recognition. The victory restored investor confidence and led to the formation of the Ford Motor Company in 1903. Yet tensions resurfaced as Henry clashed with partners over direction and control. After further disputes, he left, and leadership under Henry M. Leland transformed the reorganized company into the Cadillac Motor Company. Henry Ford walked away from failure more than once, but each setback sharpened his conviction. He believed cars should not be luxuries for the rich, but practical tools for everyday families. His determination to control production, reduce costs, and standardize manufacturing would soon revolutionize industry itself. Within a generation, his methods would not only dominate automobile manufacturing, but redefine how modern goods were produced worldwide. From a restless farm boy to an architect of industrial transformation, Henry Ford reshaped the rhythm of daily life, putting mobility within reach of millions and forever altering the course of history. After walking away from earlier business failures, Henry Ford did not slow down. Instead, he leaned fully into the one arena that could restore his reputation: speed. Racing was becoming a national spectacle in the early 1900s, and victory on the track meant credibility in the marketplace. Partnering with former racing cyclist Tom Cooper in 1902, Ford focused on building powerful, stripped-down machines designed for one purpose: to win. The result was the Ford 999, an enormous 80-horsepower racing car that looked more like a mechanical beast than a refined automobile. It had no elegance, no comfort, and no pretense of practicality. It was raw power mounted on wheels. To drive it, Ford and Cooper recruited Barney Oldfield, a former bicycle racer, who had never driven an automobile before. Oldfield learned quickly. When he took the 999 onto the track and defeated cars built by rivals such as Alexander Winton, the victory sent shockwaves through the young automotive industry. Crowds gathered to watch these races. Newspapers covered them with excitement, and Ford's name began circulating as a master designer of speed and power. By 1904, Ford's racing vehicles were breaking American speed records, reaching 91.4 miles per hour, an astonishing figure for the time. These accomplishments did more than entertain spectators. They rebuilt Ford's credibility with investors. Racing proved that his engineering ideas worked. It demonstrated durability, strength, and innovation under extreme stress. Most importantly, it re-established trust in his ability to design superior machines. Armed with renewed confidence and financial backing from 11 investors, including Detroit coal dealer Alexander Young Malcolmson, Ford formally established the Ford Motor Company in 1903. This third attempt at building a car company was different. Ford had learned hard lessons from his previous failures. He understood the dangers of investor interference, inefficient supply chains, and unclear production strategies. This time, he was determined to maintain control over both engineering and manufacturing direction. From the beginning, Ford's goal was revolutionary. He did not want to build luxury vehicles for the elite. At the time, automobiles were handcrafted, expensive, and considered toys for the wealthy. Each car required skilled craftsmen assembling parts by hand, which made production slow and prices high. Ford envisioned something radically democratic, a dependable motor car, built for the average worker. Durable enough for rough roads, simple enough to repair, and affordable enough to purchase without immense wealth. The early years of the company were marked by experimentation. Ford and his team produced numerous prototypes, refining designs through trial and error. The first successful production vehicle, the Model A, proved the company could deliver a workable automobile. It was followed by improved versions, including the Model N, which gained popularity for its lower cost and reliability. Yet while these cars sold well, Ford's most transformative thinking centered not only on what he built, but how he built it. He recognized that inefficiency in manufacturing was the primary obstacle to affordability. In earlier ventures, delays in receiving parts from multiple suppliers had slowed production and drained resources. Ford began consolidating control, seeking suppliers who could reliably provide large quantities of components. Eventually, he pushed toward vertical integration, aiming to manufacture as many parts as possible within his own operations. A pivotal moment came during a visit to Chicago, where Ford observed the disassembly lines in slaughterhouses. There, animals were moved along a line while workers performed specific, repetitive tasks. The efficiency of the system left a lasting impression. Ford realized that instead of craftsmen building an entire car from start to finish, each worker could perform one specialized task while the vehicle moved along a controlled path. The concept of the moving assembly line was born from this observation. By 1910, Ford constructed a new plant in Highland Park, Michigan, specifically designed to implement these ideas. Engineers and managers experimented continuously, adjusting workflow and breaking production into smaller tasks. In 1913, the moving assembly line became fully operational. The impact was extraordinary. The time required to assemble a Model T chassis dropped from 12 hours to roughly 90 minutes. Productivity multiplied. Costs decreased dramatically. The assembly line transformed not only Ford's company, but modern manufacturing itself. The Model T, introduced in 1908, became the embodiment of Ford's philosophy. Built with vanadium steel, which was lighter and stronger than traditional steel, it was tough enough to withstand poor road conditions common in rural America. It was simple in design, easy to repair, and reliable in operation. Though initially priced around $850, the efficiencies of mass production allowed Ford to steadily reduce the cost year after year. By 1916, the price had fallen below $400. The car that once seemed expensive became accessible to teachers, farmers, shopkeepers, and factory workers. Demand exploded. Within days of its release, thousands of orders flooded in. By 1914, Ford was producing more cars than all other manufacturers combined. Between 1910 and 1916, production increased from roughly 20,000 vehicles per year to nearly 1 million. At its peak, about half of all automobiles in the world were Model Ts. The car reshaped daily life, enabling families to travel greater distances, expanding economic opportunity, and accelerating urban and rural connectivity. Yet the very system that made Ford powerful created tension inside his factories. The repetitive nature of assembly line work reduced skilled craftsmen to performing single, monotonous tasks. Turnover rates climbed as workers grew dissatisfied. Ford responded with another bold move. In 1914, he announced the $5 workday, doubling the typical wage and reducing working hours. The decision stunned the business community. Critics predicted financial ruin. Instead, applications poured in from across the country. Higher wages reduced turnover, improved morale, and increased productivity. Workers who earned more could afford the products they built, reinforcing the cycle of mass production and mass consumption. In 1919, Ford consolidated his power by buying out minority shareholders, making himself sole owner of Ford Motor Company. Although his son Edsel Ford became president, Henry maintained firm control. His leadership style was decisive and often uncompromising. That determination had fueled his rise, but it would also contribute to future struggles. As the 1920s progressed, consumer preferences began to shift. Competitors such as Chevrolet, part of General Motors, offered vehicles in various colors, with improved styling and comfort. Ford remained devoted to the Model T's simplicity, resisting cosmetic changes and new features. Sales eventually declined. By 1927, after producing more than 15 million Model Ts, Ford halted production and introduced a redesigned Model A. Production moved to the massive River Rouge complex in Michigan, an industrial marvel that integrated raw material processing with final assembly. Iron ore arrived by ship, was transformed into steel on site, and emerged as finished automobiles. It was one of the most ambitious industrial systems ever constructed. Despite these efforts, competition intensified. Chrysler Corporation joined General Motors in challenging Ford's dominance. By the mid-1930s, Ford had fallen to third place in the American market. The Great Depression further strained the company, forcing layoffs and wage reductions. Even the introduction of the innovative V8 engine could not fully restore earlier dominance. In 1943, personal tragedy struck again when Edsel Ford died of stomach cancer. An aging Henry resumed greater control, but his health was declining. In 1945, leadership passed to his grandson, Henry Ford II. 2 years later, on April 7, 1947, Henry Ford died of a cerebral hemorrhage. His legacy endured beyond his lifetime. The company he founded remained one of the largest automakers in the world. More importantly, his innovations reshaped industrial society. The moving assembly line became the backbone of 20th-century manufacturing. His wage policies influenced labor standards. His insistence on affordability democratized mobility. From a restless farm boy in Michigan to a titan of global industry, Henry Ford permanently altered how the modern world builds, works, and moves.